Gen Z is entering the video game industry now, making new games and new experiences and leading new products, and they are fundamentally changing everything about what we expect is quality, about the way we speak about video game designs, and it has a tremendous amount to do with the way that they grew up playing video games. Is it going to ruin video games, or are they going to put everyone else out of a job? I'm going to talk about that on this video, along with some tools that if you are not a Gen Z game maker, things to consider, some homework to do to prepare for this massive tectonic shift coming in the video game industry. It's here, it's already happening. Don't get left behind. When I entered the video game industry, many of the game creators around me grew up playing Doom and Quake and Unreal Tournament, and game design and game development was largely based on the lineage of modding these into new games. Many games that we experienced on console and PC in the early 2000s came out of engines like Unreal Tournament or the Half-Life engine or the Quake engine or the Halo engine. This dramatically affected the way that we think about what's good and what's not and what we're trying to achieve. Realism was the goal, simulation was the goal, systems were the goal. Then World of Warcraft came out, and it fundamentally changed the way that new game creators thought about video games and made video games, and it led to things like League of Legends, things that were more tactical, things that were more top-down. The verbiage about game design became very heavy around the way that people think about MMOs, and it is where we got a lot of modern games as a live service, at least on the console side. And when that was mixed with free-to-play mobile game mechanics, you now have the games industry as it exists today, bent on realism from the early 90s when we were pushing to make things more realistic and higher pixels and higher quality, bigger textures. The foundation of these games industry tools like the Unreal Engine that are still around. But then on top of that, a whole new generation of millennial game creators that were thinking about meta and in-game gameplay and PvP and streamability and watchability and esports. But now something else has happened that has fundamentally changed the gaming landscape. And that is the upcoming generation of game designers and game makers grew up playing Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite. It's going to completely change the way that people think about stuff. Here's some examples. Do you know what an obby is? Do you know what a death run is? You think you know what a tycoon game is because we've all played Roller Coaster Tycoon, or have we? What is a tycoon in the context of Gen Z? What is an RP game? There are whole new genres and whole new ways about what is good and what is not. If you want a recent example, look at the Steam charts. Lethal Company, made by a former Roblox designer. Janky, kind of broken, super simple, top of the charts, beating out the likes of Call of Duty. And this is just the beginning. At Look North World, we build games inside of Fortnite and other creator marketplaces, TBD. It's incredible to see the way that they talk about game design, the way they think about game design be completely different than the way that I grew up thinking about it or the generation after thought about it. It's going to completely change everything about games because what we think about is quality, where we spend all of our dollars, may not look very much like what it does today. These players are not going to go play the new God of War, probably. They're not going to go play the next big console game. That's my generation. And there's many of us. And so there's plenty of room to keep making those kinds of games, albeit probably not on a continuing to increase budget because our market is not growing. And the console and PC and AAA space has been kind of stagnant in terms of growth compared to things like mobile. Mobile markets have continued to expand and find new ways to grow. And we have continued to cater to the same AAA marketplace for probably the last 5 years. We found ways to sell them more games and way to give them subscriptions. But in that midst, there's this fundamental truth that we can't continue to increase budgets like we have without seeing a proportionate growth in the market. You're gonna get more expensive games as a hedge against this, but still we need to increase the number of players. And to do that, we need Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And they don't define quality the way that we do, with big, brilliant cutscenes and incredible storylines and deep, complex systems and giant open worlds. The game sessions tend to be more snackable, more along Fortnite and Minecraft and Roblox. They tend to be simpler and janky and provide room for massive amounts of expression, a tremendous amount of opportunity to demonstrate skill. And they are very, very social because I apologize for using the M word here, the metaverse world, but I'm not using it in the way that you've heard it used before. There's a phenomenon now of Gen Z and Gen Alpha playing video games on one screen and having Discord open on another, hanging out with their friends in digital spaces, aka Discord, many hours after school is done and playing video games with them without even having to be in the same location. They go hang out in Roblox to socialize. In fact, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I would argue, spend more time socializing in digital spaces, especially after the pandemic, than any other generation before. And so spaces need to accommodate the ability to just hang and be expressive and be funny and silly and send your friends just rolling on the floor laughing. And that is why Lethal Company has been so successful. It's catering to that phenomenon. And it turns out it's pretty fun. It's pretty good and compelling. And it's amazing to hop in and have a hilarious, unpredictable experience with your friends versus a big narrative and demanding game that's going to need you to play for 300 hours to find the end, which you probably won't finish. And that's just not Gen Z. There are exceptions. For instance, GTA 6 will probably be played by multiple generations. Why? Why is such a massive game, a AAA game at the highest, most expensive budget, probably going to resonate with this audience? Because it is an online digital hang space at its core. that allows for expression and hilarity and demonstration of skill, all the things that Gen Z finds interesting about Roblox and Minecraft and Fortnite. But it's important that you spend some time going into Roblox and going into Fortnite. Go to different tags, play different experiences, play what's at the top. It might be easy to write it off as low rent, lizard brain YouTube with bad gameplay, but be careful about writing it off, because fundamentally, these are spins on the game that they love playing, but with all the weapons available or all the cheat mode on. It allows them to socialize and be expressive and show skill off. These are the things that this generation is really banking on. And there's a vernacular, a terminology that you need to be familiar with if you make games. It's going to find its way into rooms, and you're going to feel really outdated and really out of step when people start mentioning these things in the way that they talk about gaming technology. Look at the terminology that new generations are using and what it means and why it's relevant and why is this a thing and why can it be memeable and what about that? Like Riz, fundamentally about expression. It's another way of thinking about having your own unique style, but also, being attractive. These ideas and what's happening with this generation is going to fundamentally shift, and it already is fundamentally shifting the video game industry. Just look at Lethal Company, and that is just beginning, just starting. So I encourage you to go spend some time in these digital spaces, play in these digital spaces, at least be aware, at least know that there's still a big market of us millennials and Gen Xers and older who will play these older experiences. Well, I made Mass Effect 2 and 3, and I also mentor high school students and middle school students around game design careers and game development careers, and they have never heard of Mass Effect, and they've never really even thought about Halo. There's no idea of Quake or Doom. There's no idea even of World of Warcraft. They know Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, and a bunch of other stuff, Five Nights at Freddy's, which you should also try to understand. They know Discord. So spend time in these spaces, learning about what they're playing and why. It's easy to think, these game creators are gonna graduate up from Roblox and make real games like we do, or these players are gonna graduate up and finally play the kinds of games that we make. But that is a mistake. It is a mistake that happens from generation to generation. It's just the nature of the beast. You can imagine all the bands in the 80s who were perplexed by Nirvana, thinking it was going to be a one-off thing, and now it has completely changed everything. Or people who wrote off hip-hop, right? Who completely wrote it off as a thing, and it's going to go back to the things that we grew up with, that we loved. And they were wrong, because fundamentally, art changes and art shifts. And whatever is counter to the thing that's popular ends up being the new popular thing. That is the nature of popular culture. And so it is happening. I encourage you to be up to date. Even if you're older than Gen Z, it doesn't mean you can't be tuned in. It doesn't mean you can't get them, but spend time playing these games. Spend time on VoIP, listening to how they talk about the games. Go mentor high school students. Go mentor middle school students. Ask them questions. You'll be surprised how smart and bright and well-educated a bunch of kids who grew up with YouTube, who have done teardowns of games and listen to teardowns of games. This generation has never been more astute or well-versed on the high-level thinking around game design. And where we had to really go out and find resources, it just sits in front of them. It's an incredibly bright generation who are going to make extraordinary things. Lethal Company is just the beginning, and I encourage you to play that as well. But this is changing everything. And you can think, this is ruining game design. It's going to be harder to make AAA games, which is true. But what is AAA? What is relevant? What matters? Where's the biggest opportunity for growth and reaching new people and affecting new people? People who haven't quite been jaded yet or are salty, who are going to love the new thing that you make. So long as it speaks to them and their values and what they love playing and why they play games. And you won't know that unless you are listening and hanging out with these kids and learning. And I encourage you to do it because they're awesome. And I'm excited about this generation, and I'm excited about the future they're bringing to the video game industry and the perspective they have. And I want to be on that train with them. And I encourage you to be too. If you've loved this video, if it's been helpful to you, please like it and subscribe. It's amazing. In the meantime, keep your chin up, your heart open. I believe in you. This is Lordy. See you next week.